Hey, YouTube and Instagram Live, it's Gordon Miller. All right, relocated to the back porch. We've got some spring cleaning going on. So, geez, hopefully it's not going to storm here. The wind is crazy. Hopefully the wind's not too bad. Let's see. I didn't bring my iPad. I forgot it up in my office, but anyway, I'll rather than answering some of the questions, I guess let's see. I guess if I go back to my Instagram, hang on just a second. Yeah, I'll lose my connection, so it's all good. I'm gonna go ahead and grab a cigar here. I'll answer whatever questions you've got. So, send a request. Hey, all right. Going live. Hey,
Gordon.
How are you doing?
Hi, how are you? I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, good. You're looking great yourself.
Thank you so much, Gordon. I actually have asked you a few questions. I don't know if you remember my username.
Yeah,
So,
of course.
it's my dog. You gave me this wonderful lecture last week when I told you I wasn't saving enough money. So,
I'm
so
sorry.
Thank you for that. My dad's a businessman as well. He owns a tech company, and he keeps telling me that, but it's different when you hear it from someone else.
Well, yeah, the one thing that people learn too late in their life is that their father is usually always right, or they're at least right like half the time. How about that? And
Right.
the problem is you don't know which half, and that's the problem. So
I totally agree. So I'm getting my PhD in human-computer interaction at the University of Minnesota right now.
congratulations!
And,
It's a great field. I recommend it. So
Thank you. And so while I'm in quarantine lockdown with my boyfriend currently, and we keep thinking, there has to be something more to this. Like, we can use this time to have ideas. There's definitely people who are going to be banking on the whole quarantine thing, coming up with ideas, business ideas. So, Gordon, what is your suggestion for? I know it's not organic to say, I need to come up with an idea. You can't come up with a solution and try to fit it to problems that don't exist. So,
well, there's a lot of things you can do actually. So because your area is one that I know pretty well, I'm glad I took the invite, and it's a great way to approach the problem. So one of the things that I did early on was I took a bunch of speculative work and did it in my downtime, and to get some references, reference accounts, and some good opportunities to get some good projects done and things like that. And now is a great time for that. In fact, some company, and it's called like Iron Front or something like that. Iron Front is doing the exact same thing. They're like, hey, you got a great idea for an app? We'll build it right now, and we'll take like half the profit and everything else and half the equity. And it's a great model. If you're working on stuff, especially UI, UX, UI stuff, now's the time to be designing stuff. Now's the time to be building stuff. Yeah, no, it's a great opportunity.
That's great news for me. So I own 3 patents. I taught myself how to write patents because I was a teenager when I came up with them. I couldn't afford a lawyer. So they're mostly surgical tools. Some of them are automation tools. So this is great. What you said is great. I'm going to use this time to do all my jotting and prototyping. Just love doing it.
Well, the other thing so I had a call with one of my partners and mentors or mentees earlier today, and he was writing grant proposals, and we were talking about the sort of the reality of how we have used some of our patents. I have 3 patents overall, and we've used some of our own patents. My other company, Harmonia, my second company, has dozens of patents, but by going to major universities and doing SBIR, STTR type proposals and doing some of the work that's out there, laying the groundwork, we built Harmonia by laddering grant proposals where we were doing $100,000 initial efforts with $1 million follow-ons and things like that, and we just kept hitting it hard. But we kept using other intellectual properties from the university, from the major university's intellectual property thing. Paid them a small royalty. Got the university interested in promoting and leveraging the proposal. It got the attention of the major agencies, and the stuff got awarded. And so now's a great time to be doing phase 1 SBIR, STTR type opportunities, working with whatever your major university is, perhaps even the one you're going to school at, and do an STTR and leverage your existing sole source for your patents and leverage a couple things from their patent profile and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a great way to do it.
All right, well, thank you, Gordon. Thank you so much. I don't want to hog up all the time on your life.
Nah, that's all right. I don't mind. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, let's see here. All right, somebody else wants to go live. Oh, looks like they've already left. All right, so since I left my questions in my iPad in my office, and I don't remember what the questions were that we're supposed to be doing today, if somebody else wants to join, let me know. See if we've got any questions from YouTube here. Oh, no questions yet. Good deal. If not, it's going to be a relatively short day, kind of chill and enjoy my cigar. Today's video is brought to you by Seagram's Ginger Ale, and there's actually nothing else in it. It's kind of a shame, but just in case the comments kept coming that I'm being unhealthy. I'm smoking. I'm drinking alcohol. Okay, well at least today I'm not drinking alcohol. How about that? Do you agree with Simon Shinnick's on thoughts on management? I don't know who that is or what his thoughts are, so I don't know particularly what that whether I agree with him or not. So, but. So, certainly, let's see. I don't want to have to bust out of the Instagram live to, if somebody would check my post and tell me what the comment was for what I was trying to answer questions for earlier. I appreciate it. Donald Trump doesn't believe in exercising. Most people wake up. Most people make fun of him. What are your thoughts? Indie software developers can be success in current time. Yeah, of course, the independent software developers are always going to be successful. I mean, that doesn't matter this time or any other time. So, what do I think about Donald Trump's exercise routine? I actually don't know what he does, if anything. And supposedly he doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, and I'm not sure what he does for exercise, but it doesn't appear to be much. Girl with 3 parents, I'm having the imposter syndrome here. Is there another comment on that? I don't understand. What am I smoking today? I'm smoking today the same thing that I'm smoking on most days, which is a Cohiba Red Dot Black Edition Gigante 52 ring gauge. So, how's the lockdown going on? Lockdown is fantastic. Loving the lockdown. So, let's see here. Girl has 3, not parents, has 3 patents. So, no, I don't think there's imposter syndrome there. She is, she's a highly successful PhD candidate, has chatted with me before, so, it's certainly easy enough to file patents. It's inexpensive too if you do it yourself. So, oh, thanks. They are, what does ambition mean to me? And what did ambition mean to you? How do I stay motivated? Yeah, so thanks. I appreciate that, guys. What does ambition mean to me? So I think that, I've never had a problem staying motivated. I mean, there are days where I'm more motivated or busier than other days. And, there are days that, I prefer to achieve less than I normally would on any given day. So, actually for me, I enjoy what I do, so it's its own motivation. In the past where I've had jobs where I had, deadlines and stuff to do, my biggest thing is just knuckling down and getting it done. It's just all about discipline. I mean, and whether you're afraid of potential negative consequences like losing the contract or not getting paid or, other problems like that, whatever motivates you, whether it's pleasure or pain. So, yep, that's what motivates me. I mean, I really enjoy what I do, and so it's a benefit. Let's see, from YouTube, he doesn't believe in the benefits of exercising. I find it true because the body is like a machine. If you overuse it, you end up hurting. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I think we all need to stay in a reasonable level of fitness. The biggest impact on the coronavirus lockdown is that it reversed a lot of my gains in terms of my progress in losing weight before the lockdown. I was down 65 pounds, and I've gained some of that back. And so for me, I was doing great, swimming 3 to 5 times a day, or 3 to 5 times a week. And so unfortunately, during the lockdown, I had like 6 weeks of, not on the program. And I was sick with coronavirus, I believe, from January the 14th through February the 7th. So I was sick for like 3 weeks where I didn't swim, and I was catching up on my stuff in the middle of February. So about the time that I got caught up on everything by the time I went to, on March 3rd to New York City to close the deal there. And then when I got back, the lockdown was on. So I was like, well, so, really it's been like 2 or 3 months since I've been a part of my regular exercise regimen, and I really enjoy it. I mean, I don't think it's a matter of using it up. I do have a similar theory, though, that I think that your heart beats a certain number of times in your lifetime, and I think if you accelerate your heart rate through drugs and alcohol and things like that, I think you burn up, those heartbeats, and everybody's heartbeat count is different because everybody's physiology is different, but that's why some people can drink and smoke and live to be 100. Who's to say they wouldn't have lived to be 110 if they had taken better care of themselves? But, beyond a certain point, I figure if I get to 85, I got 30 more good years. So, it's, 30, I'm good with 85 or 90. I mean, I don't know that I really want to live more than another 35 years or so. Live to see my kids get married, live to see them have a family, and things like that. So, I'm good with that. I want to live to at least to 2050. I think that's a cool date. And I would even go with like something within the date that I died of, like with 02/05/50 or something like that. So that way it's like. So let's see. A couple questions here. Yes, imagine a car if you don't use it at all. You got hurt, oxidation. Yeah. Did I ever do drugs? No. I never, really saw the need. Do you have any funny stories? Funny stories about what? I shared some of my funny stories in one of my videos last week about funny stories of being an Uber driver. So that was funny. Everything from the guy trying to buy weed to the couple having sex in the backseat. So let's see. And check Instagram here and see what the other comments were. What would you say to a new CEO who's not very knowledgeable with legal and financial terms? Well, it's a matter of educating yourself, and it's also a matter of having the right attorneys and accountants. One of the things that my father always stressed was he always had the best attorneys and the best accountants, and he said, you never save any money by trying to save money on attorneys and accountants. So, So Mitchell, you mentioned what's my favorite sports car. I have a post on Cora that's going kind of crazy right now on my comparison between what the difference between Ferrari and Lamborghini. I had the pleasure of driving an '04 Lamborghini Gallardo, and I drove an '02 Ferrari 360 Modena. And my story on Cora is really kind of great. It's getting a lot of attention, and you can check it out in the space The Truth Unfiltered on Quora if you want. In terms of legal and financial terms, part of that's an education. YouTube videos are great for that. There's lots of stuff out there in terms of specific financial terms you may not understand, but having a good basic financial understanding is kind of important. So setting up a business properly, making sure all the paperwork is good. Yeah, it actually matters. One of the recent deals that I did, I got screwed over by one of my partners because I bought in on a 50-50 partnership and bought his partner out. But the guy that I was going into partnership with that was staying there was the managing partner, and there was no restriction on his ability to use or misuse company money, and he basically embezzled $800,000 on a $10 million contract, and it was not illegal. I mean, when I reported it to the FBI, it was investigated, and they took a look at the paperwork, and they're like, well, dude, I mean, this guy's the managing partner. I mean, you never said that he couldn't do that, and in terms of borrowing the money and using it for his own purposes and with the intention of paying the company back, which is fine. I mean, he took basically my money out of the company that was owed to me, and so if the company had been set up differently, it was a multi-member LLC. If it had been a corporation instead, and if he had not been the managing partner, if we had been either both equal partners, or if I had changed the way the bank accounts were done, it would have made a huge difference. I mean, obviously I would have enjoyed the $800,000 that I was owed off of that opportunity, which frankly, 100% of that opportunity was mine. It was supposed to go to one of my other companies, G3, and we sent it to them because of the opportunity that it allowed us to qualify for some additional benefits. So, really, I end up losing a total of $1.6 million on that because I lost my $800,000 and the $800,000 that I would have made off of his part too if I had just kept it. So, yep. So the structure matters. The legal documents matter. What's the best years in your life? Well, the best years of my life or the best years in somebody else's life. So, I've always said that I didn't know it at the time, but I think the best years in anybody's life is between 18 and 29. You need to really make those 11 years count. I spent a lot of time working, and because of that, I was very successful by the time I was 30. I launched the company when I was 28, a week before my 29th birthday, and we were doing really well by the time I was 30. So, I spent a lot of time working, which was great, and I enjoyed working and I enjoyed doing what I was doing. But if I had it to do over again, I probably would have traveled more. Now we live in a global society with the internet and stuff like that, which we didn't have back then. And I think there's lots of opportunities. I mean, I would have enjoyed myself, and I would not have dated the same person for 7 years or 3 or 4 years, and then married her and stayed married for 3 years. So don't get married before you're 30. That's just a recipe for disaster. All right, let's see what other comments we got here. All right. So, as an entrepreneur, did your CS major help you? Of course, yeah. I was very lucky to be at the right place, the right time in history with technology. The user interface was really the number one main component of mobile and desktop and everything else. And the work that we were doing was really cutting edge. And so I was really very lucky. Our skills were very much in demand in the late 80s, early 90s, and on into the 2000s. And so as things continue to progress through mobile, the momentum shifted about 2010. And so that's why, the opportunity really was out there again, like 10 years ago. If you focused on mobile in '07 when the iPhone came out and you really wanted to build a major business in mobile, you could really, the whole paradigm shifted. And so, you could have had a great opportunity to be able to take advantage of that. All right, let's see what we got here. How long was your PhD program and how much harder was it compared to the master's program you did? So I did my PhD work while I was faculty because it was free and I could schedule courses. I was not blacklisted from anything, or there was no such thing as full. So I was able to pretty much set my own schedule. I took my coursework over the 5 years that I was faculty. And when I left the university, obviously it was no longer free. I had not finished my dissertation. So technically, my time expired before I finished my dissertation. So, I can't go back now and finish it. So technically I'd have to start all over. It actually wasn't very hard at all because it was being taught by people who had established knowledge in years past, but I was on the cutting edge of what was going on at the time. And so my knowledge in many ways surpassed that of my teachers in that area because they didn't know what the current technology was. That wasn't the case everywhere, but that was the case in a lot of places. Most universities, their curriculum is between 3 and 5 years at best behind the times, and as much as 5 to 10 years behind the times. A lot of teachers I knew in engineering were taught the same material they had taught like 10 or 15 years before. So, so what's the foremost thing that I would suggest a 20-year-old do to help in their career? I think it's just a matter of working harder than the next guy and spending time educating yourself, whether that's YouTube videos or whether that's, something else. I mean, it just is a matter of, learning and investing the time and the energy into, into that. It really is. How was my life 10 years ago? Pretty good, actually. We were coming off a major project in '08 and '09. We did the one of the integrations for CVS and Caremark, and that project that we did in '08 and '09 was an amazing project. My father passed away from drug interaction. It was a low blood pressure situation caused exacerbated by his heart condition, but supposedly he was taking one medication and it was contraindicated with another medication, and so it caused his blood pressure to drop, and unfortunately he died as a result of the blood pressure drop. So one of the things that I was very vocal about what I thought the responsibility was for drug interactions and things like that, whether it was medications for depression or medications for heart-related issues and things like that, any kind of potential interaction, and pain medication interactions and things like that, where one causes a reduction in respiratory rate and things like that. So it really just depends. I mean, but we were able to do an interaction or an integration for CVS and Caremark that allowed them to flag potential drug interactions and help keep people from taking something that was contraindicated. So, that was great. I mean, it was a great opportunity to kind of work to, kind of redeem some of the failures in the system early on that, may have contributed to my father's death. Are there major setbacks to the economy considering that the economy is down during the pandemic? Oh yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of potential setbacks that we know will probably have ripple effects for the next 10 years. So, yeah, I mean, it's, so yeah, I mean, it's clearly going to change the way that we do. Even if we get back to normal, we'll never see 2019 normal again. There will be no such thing as that. Let me check on YouTube here. All right, YouTube. Let's see, we got some questions here. Hang on a second. What's my favorite sports car? I think I talked about that before. My favorite sports car by far is the Ferrari. And I think probably the next one I get will be a Ferrari 458 Italia. Thanks for sharing your time. I feel ego and perfection hindered me to make initiative to establish second income business or innovation instead, still an employee. How can I break that? Well, I suggest reading Robert Kiyosaki's book, The Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That quad chart about going from being an employee to a business owner or from an employee to self-employed to a business owner to an investor, it was a critical thing for me. It really kind of changed my life. So let's see what we got here. Hang on a second. Go back and hey Gordon, thanks for suggesting to buy Marathon Oil, up 92% from when I bought it. Yeah, I know, man. I'm not a stock picker, but I do know how to do the fundamental analysis. And for everybody that I was like, hey, I think this is going to be great. MRO, Marathon Oil. I saw it today. It was up 20% or something like that today, or 7.8% or something like that earlier today, just for today. So, I know it's up, way over 50% before I bought it, or since I bought it. I didn't realize it was up 92%. Again, I don't keep track of it. I knew it had the ability to do a 2x or 3x or even more bounce. I was looking for a 2x or 3x return out of it. I knew the mechanics of it might work, even in the middle of all this. And sometimes when you have a company that's really desperate, they'll do desperate things to save the company. And Marathon Oil was right there, man. They were either going to go bankrupt or they were going to figure it out, and it looks like they figured it out. So good for them, man. Hey, that's all good. Let's see what else we got. I'm not one for stock tips, but I'm glad that Marathon Oil. Those of you who have been following me for a while and going to the trouble of going through my daily 1 hour feeds and stuff like that. I'm glad that it was a win for you guys. Don't drugs and alcohol give you a lot of dopamine, false sense of reward? So instead of working, so the brain gives you a stress relief. Drugs give it a lot of it for free. It depends. Alcohol is a depressant, or it can be a stimulant, depending on what your specific physiology is. Majority of people, I think it's like 3/4 or 80%. Alcohol is a depressant. For me, it's a stimulant, so for me, it actually helps a little bit with my ADD and focus and things like that. But certainly, any alcohol or drug, can affect dopamine levels in the brain, either artificially or exacerbate natural dopamine production or generate additional dopamine. So just depends. So let's see what we got here. Views on coding boot camps and coding in general. I think coding boot camps are good. I think that it's certainly worth every opportunity to gain experience is good. Roadmap for 29 to 30-year-olds after 18 to 29 phase. So yeah, the next phase. What made Steve Jobs such a legendary visionary? Let's see. Where are you from? I'm asking because. You said I'm an Arab too. I'm not Arab, but I appreciate it. I'm from here in Richmond, Virginia. That's where I grew up. I've lived a few other places, but in terms of a roadmap for people in their 30s, I believe you need to start focusing on relationships in your late 20s, in like 25 to 30, with the expectation of somewhere between 30 and 35, really kind of either figuring out if you're going to start a family or not. I mean, you know, these days you really need to have kids before you're 40, or you risk the risks are much higher. So if you're going to have a couple of kids, you want to space them out a couple of years. So, you know, typically you're going to want to get married before you're 35, and in order to do that, you need to start figuring out what you're looking for in a relationship, you know, when you're 25, and kind of nail it down by the time you're 30. So when I met my wife, she was 31, I was 33, and we had kids when I was 35 and she was 33, and we had our last child when she turned 40. And I think that's really ideal. It gave me the opportunity to spend the most amount of time. You know, I really spent most of my 30s focused on building the family while also building the business. But most of your 20s is really for focusing on your career, you know, building that 10 years of relevant experience that you need to succeed. So that's when you should be working on your career. And when your career is more established and you're earning what you should be earning in your 30s, then you can focus more on the family. Any book suggestions off the top of my head? So I've got 40 books in 2 videos in my YouTube channel. If you go to my YouTube channel and just search on books, Gordon Miller, there are 2 videos that talk about that. Steve Jobs was a visionary just because he had a clear vision of what he was looking for and how things might be, and people got excited about that. So some things that are overrated in my opinion. The Cora partner program. So did I ever think about my legacy? So yeah, I mean, ironically, one of the things that I talked about on one of the other videos, sorry, I'm having to keep this thing lit, the wind out here is crazy. But you know, the whole reason I started on Cora originally was because I was looking for something. Instead of a Wikipedia entry, I got a Cora answer, and I got interested in answering questions and making comments and things like that on Cora. And you know, it kind of was interesting at the time. And then it kind of had this sort of evil idea that, well, what if I became really popular on Cora and answered lots of questions on lots of different topics, and then my kids, since they never asked me anything, they just Google it if they need to know something. You know, what if for the rest of their lives and my grandchildren's lives and things like that, every answer to everything they wanted to know was one of my answers. So, you know, it's funny, but you know, the whole idea. Hang on a second. Sorry about that. The umbrella at the table that I'm sitting at was about to blow away. So anyway, good questions over here on Instagram. So anyway, so my legacy was all about creating a situation where what if every answer they ever needed to know for the rest of their lives was ended up being one of my answers. So it was one of those kind of, you know, evil things that you decide you're going to do to your kids. And sure enough, I mean, I never thought that so many other people would be affected by it. I mean, I never expected people to really be interested in what I had to say. And, you know, I never expected it to turn into, you know, what it has. So it's been great. So, here, there's some good questions here. So, Gitan asks, what do I think about the age gap in couples? And then another question was, ideal wife qualities, marry someone, same field, or totally opposite. So Yeah, no, I think that, in some ways opposites attract. If you go to my one of my posts, I posted my Jordan Peterson 5 dimensions score for my personality, along with that from my wife. And we are maybe that was a Cora answer, but I don't know. I'll have to remember where I posted it. But I think that my wife and I are alike in many ways and also very different in other ways. And so it's the things that we're alike that really help, and it's the ways that we're different that really help. So I think that's, one of the great things. It's really has to do with the dynamic. So, she is outgoing like I am. She's more orderly than I am, keeping, in terms of orderliness. She is conscientious and things like that. She's more agreeable than I am, so that's often good. So we're both low in neuroticism, so we don't worry about what other people say or think and things like that. So, but yeah, no, I mean, I think that's that's pretty common for there to be some things that you're alike in. If we were both very disagreeable, I mean, if my wife was as disagreeable as I am, in so very low in agreeableness, we would probably be disagreeing more often than we have over the last 22 years. So the fact that she's agreeable, helps that. The fact that, if she was more neurotic, like, oh my gosh, how do I look in this dress, or how do I look in this, whatever, she doesn't care. I mean, she cares how she looks, but, she's not obsessed by what other people think or things like that. So, it's great. I mean, I think that the understandingmyself.com has some great opportunities to take the test and have your your girlfriend or your husband or wife take it and compare the results. And I think it offers some really pretty amazing insights into all that. Question came up. One of the questions on so we got Instagram over here and YouTube over here. So one of the questions came up in terms of the age gap and age differences in couples. I know I've written extensively on that on Cora, and I think my wife is 2 years younger than I am. We share a lot in common because we had a lot of common experiences growing up, and so that's always good. So there's some benefit to that, and I think it's more common in younger couples these days for women in their early 20s to be dating guys in their late 20s or early 30s. I know that Jordan Peterson has spoken and written about it extensively, saying that women are looking for people 5 to 8 years older these days, and I think that's just a function of maturity and things like that, as opposed to later in life where it's more like economic sufficiency. But I don't think the age gap matters that much. I mean, I think age is just a number, like anything else, and I think that people are more compatible. I worry. I focus more on what people's personalities are like, and for instance, how they would score on the personality dimension test than I do anything else. And in fact, when we offer internships for the work that we're doing through the company, we have the interns take the exam, and if they aren't high enough in certain areas, then we don't really consider them for opportunities. And I think that if you're, if your potential wife is high in volatility and high in neuroticism and high in low in agreeableness, then you got a whole lifetime of arguments, ahead of you. So there's nothing good about that. So. All right, let me go back to the comments here. And in YouTube, comments are really good today, so I appreciate the comments, guys. Let's focus on, let's see, follow you on Quora. Didn't know that you're active in YouTube. Yeah, so Omar, I go live every day, or not every day, but Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays now, from 5 until 6. Instagram cuts me off after an hour. I upload the YouTube thing, and YouTube continues on after that for about another 10 to 15 minutes sometimes. How do you film both platforms? I film both platforms with 2 phones. I have an iPhone 11 here and an iPhone 10X Max over here. So they're the same size, same relative camera quality on the front-facing camera. That's why I don't don't look as good because of the wide angle lens and things like that tends to distort all the anything away from the center, at least on the vertical one. So yep, so 2 different phones, all running off of Wi-Fi, things like that. Let's see. Let's see. Ideal wife. Oh yeah. So in terms of so in wife and their talking about their field or career, similar careers or different. For me, I was looking for somebody who was looking to stay home with the kids, and I didn't care if I had to work my ass off 20 hours a week or 20 hours a week, 20 hours a day. I thought it was important to have somebody home with the kids when the kids got home from school, work with the kids to get their homework done, who didn't mind doing the laundry and taking care of the house and taking care of the kids and stuff like that. And my wife has been fantastic on that. It's just been great. And so, because of that, I've had to work a lot harder because, we're a single income family. So, you had to do pretty well in the income that you're making. So let's see here. Would I consider buying a sports team? No, I did not get the sports gene, so I don't buy anything I don't use or enjoy. And all the sports teams could all be in one massive airplane crash and collide together at 60,000 feet, and I'd be happy. So, what do you think of the age gap in couples? Can professional knowledge outweigh recommendations? I don't know. I mean, recommendations are important because everything's built on relationships. Why do people stay in abusive relationships? Well, all right, so that's an interesting question. And again, so I'm working on 3 books right now, and the first book that'll probably come out is going to be both business advice and personal and relationship advice, and it's tentatively called right now From the Boardroom to the Bedroom, and focuses on both business and personal advice. And so, people stay in bad relationships because their fear of the unknown. They don't know what's out there for them. In most cases, they're financially dependent on the other person. So whether it's being married to somebody or whether it's your girlfriend and she's got a job making, $2,500 a month or whatever, and she can't afford to rent $1,000, $1,500 apartment and survive without, paying half the rent instead of all the rent, and whatever. I mean, so a lot of people stay in abusive relationships just because they are afraid of what it's going to take to make it on their own, and that's a shame. I mean, I think that's you're trading the quality of life that you could have had for whatever. I mean, I don't think it's ever worthwhile to stay in an abusive relationship, especially if it's physically abusive. So I don't think there's any benefit whatsoever in that. All right, let's see what the comments are here. All right. I'm a software engineer currently building an application in my free time. Do you recommend to finance it myself, bootstrap it, or look for investors? It's always good, Omar, to build it yourself and to own it all. It's not as easy to get funding until you've proven that your application is worthwhile and people will pay money for it. So you're going to get a horrible deal. You're going to take less than $500,000, probably $250,000 to $500,000, and you're going to give away 20 or 30% equity in most cases to do that. And I just don't think that's worthwhile. Plus, there's a lot of other problems when you start taking investor money. So let's see what else we got here. Christopher from Miami Beach. Hey, brother. So Christopher, I am a huge fan of Miami. I stay at East in Brickell. I love East, and it's what, 2 or 3 blocks from Monte Cristo, and great cigars, great stuff. So no, not a Partagas cigar. It is a Cohiba Red Dot Black Edition Gigante 52 ring gauge. But I love Miami. There's a good chance that one day I'll end up living in Miami. No state sales tax, no state income tax, no car tax, no nothing in Miami. So I read and respect all your commentary. I appreciate that. Thanks, Christopher. Do you have a contact email for questions related to business and VC stuff? Yeah. So I used to make 750 calls a day, looking for legit avenue to raise money with principal contacts and help whomever I can. Thanks for your time. So, Chris, if you go to my website at gordonmiller.com, you can book a call. There's a nominal fee for the call, and it's not to make money. It's just to separate everybody from everybody else who wants to book an hour-long call. I used to just book call after call after call that, never went anywhere. And unfortunately, people were just famous for wasting my time. But if you want to book a call, you can go to gordonmiller.com and book a call. I'll email you back to the private email that I use for all those things, and we can get started. We'll book a Zoom call and talk about your contacts, and figure out what to do, and figure out how we can make the most impact on everybody else. So I heard that in order to be successful, you have to be somewhat narcissistic. Is that true? Well, I am a huge narcissist, a huge misogynist, a huge just general asshole. So I would say, yeah, I think at least from my experience, I've never not been a narcissist. So there you go. I can't tell you what it's like to be successful and not be a narcissist. So there you go. It's kind of just is what it is. Yeah, thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. And next time I'm down in Miami, after all this is over, believe me, I'll be at East, and you'll get your call money back in spades. I'll buy dinner. We'll go have some fun, grab a couple cigars, and enjoy ourselves in Miami. So it's all good, brother. I look forward to it. So let's see here. What is the personality type we should avoid to talk with based on the Peterson test? You mean avoid talking with in terms of what, like relationships? The ones that and I'm going to have a whole chapter in my book about this, because I know Peterson's been working on this, but he hasn't released the numbers. I have sent this to enough friends and family and had enough people in the internship program take the exam that you really want somebody that's high enough in orderliness. They really have to be conscientious enough. They have to be I don't have the specifics in front of me here, but they need to be outgoing enough. So people that are not outgoing, they're very reserved, very introverted. So you have to be extroverted enough. You have to be conscientious enough. You have to have a fairly low neuroticism, and agreeableness. It's a matter of like volatility is one of the components of, and it works with openness, I believe, or neuroticism. And so if people are too volatile and too neurotic and too disagreeable, then you got a real problem on your hands. So I've had guys that have worked for me that they're borderline psychopathic, and so the borderline sociopaths and psychopaths stand out in the numbers if you know what you're looking for. And I've even put some people through it that I've had a chance to work with, and it's like, man, your politeness is zero, really zero. My politeness is low, but my politeness is like, I don't know, like 13 or 12 or something like that. I'm not completely impolite. I'm borderline completely impolite. But when you're like zero politeness, then, I worry about anybody on both ends of the spectrum. I mean, if you're so extroverted that you're like a 99%, or if your politeness is 0 or 1, I worry about some of the extremes, even my own extremes in my own results. So let me see here. Boy, questions from YouTube are good today. So thanks, guys. I appreciate that. These things always go well when we have great questions. So let's see. Following instinct versus following logic. So I think it's really important to follow your instincts for sure. I mean, I think, if you follow logic and your instincts tell you to do something else, and I had a choice, I would follow your instincts. Your instincts are based on other imperceptible things that you may not see in the data, and I'll give you an example. So when I moved back to Richmond, I bought it was a distressed property. It had been, it was an amazing 3-acre triple lot, on the most valuable real estate section of real estate in Richmond here. And it was a, 6,000 square foot Georgian estate behind brick walls with a pool and everything else. And they had been trying to sell this place for 2 years. And it's because it needed everything. It needed new zones of AC. It needed a new roof. It needed all new plumbing and electricity and everything. It had been completely neglected for 15 years. And nobody wanted to spend almost $1 million on a house that, was going to need another 100,000 or 200,000 worth of work. And so, we got them down to a little over $900,000, $925,000. And we put about 100,000 into it and sold it later for, over 1.2 million. And we pocketed the $300,000 gain, in that year, 1 year and 1 day. So, and we ended up buying another house right at the downturn of the market. We sold the house 30 days before the market crashed and paid cash for another house and sat in that house and rode the downside of the market out. And then bought this place, which is, we opted, after living in that, isolation of, very luxurious environment. But when you have kids, it's all about the neighborhood, and there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity there. So, we decided to forego the, 3-acre Georgian estate lifestyle for something the kids would really benefit from, which was living in a neighborhood. So, we paid $525,000 for this house, and it's neighborhood. It's not even the most expensive house in the neighborhood. I mean, my buddy paid like $569,000 for his, and the next cul-de-sac over, the houses are like $800,000. So, we purposely, settled on this 6-bedroom, 14-room house because it was a great opportunity to be able to give the kids the right kind of environment to grow up in. My youngest son was 6 months old when we moved to this house, and this is the only place he ever remembers living. And, he'll graduate from high school in 4 years, and God willing, we'll still be here. And so it's a great opportunity. It really is. I mean, it's... So let's see what we got here. Other questions. I'll get to you guys on Instagram here in a minute. The questions on YouTube are really pretty good today. But my point about the instinct versus the data. So I decided to sell the house that we bought such a good deal on because the week that I decided to sell, I woke up and realized, I have an $800,000 mortgage at 4%, 3.99%, but that week that I decided to sell, the most expensive, the average house in America and the average income, you no longer could qualify for the average house earning the kind of money that you could with the average income. So basically, doing the analysis, I realized that there was going to be a housing bubble because the average income was not keeping up with the average home value, and that meant that a whole bunch of people were about to not be able to afford their house. And I didn't want to be holding an $800,000 mortgage, even at 4%, and be holding 1.3 million in real estate that I'm living in, and so it was a great opportunity to get rid of the house. And actually, I think I have a video about the house itself. If not, I'll have to create one that's specifically for that. But because there were some great things that happened synergistically in that situation. But in that case, I was looking at the data, but I was trusting my instincts. My instincts were to sell, and I had an opportunity to sell. Quick 30-day close, all cash offer, no contingencies, no inspections, and so I took it, and I pocketed the money, and I was grateful for the opportunity. And it only cost me what, 125,000 plus the 100 that I advanced in repairs, so it cost me 200 to get back almost 500. So, it was great. Let's see here. I met you there, and we'll have a single malt cigar. Good convo. Thanks again for your time. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it, brother. I look forward to the call, man. Thanks for the Cora content. How did you get your first clients when you started at consulting? Seems like finding clients is one of the most difficult parts. So Harrison is exactly right. So Harrison, sorry, just keeping it lit. So Harrison, you're exactly right. So I was lucky because I had run a major lab at the university, and we had given lab tours over the 3 years before I started the company. We had given tours to 700 different lab tours over 3 years. And that included all 500 of the Fortune 500 that was interested in what I was doing, as well as the delegations from 118 countries around the world, major universities, and things like that. So I had kept the business cards from everybody that I had given tours to. And I went through and I cold called every one of them and said, hey, do you remember the lab tour from 2 years ago? I'm starting my own company. And man, I had no idea. Our first clients were Eastman Chemical Corporation and FedEx and MCI and Apple Computer and things like that. It was amazing. I could never have gotten those projects without the connection to the university and the opportunity to be able to work my way through my phone list and Rolodex and things like that. So it was amazing. Come back over here to YouTube or to Instagram real quick. I have about 3 more minutes on Instagram, so I'm glad people are buying Marathon or had bought it earlier. I don't think it's worth buying right now necessarily because I think it's just too volatile. Anything in life and career we haven't asked yet? Would you ever go on Shark Tank as an investor? No. Yeah, maybe. I don't think those guys need any help. They're doing pretty good. You think I'd be entertaining, and you think I would drive up viewership? Well, I don't know about that. I think Mark's doing a great job steering the boat right now. I'm a huge fan of Mark Cuban. I think that he's doing an amazing job. I think he's brought some real compassion to Shark Tank, and I admire and respect that about him. I think he's an amazing guy. I know. I love him to death. So I'm getting the 2-minute warning from Instagram. So those of you on Instagram, if you want to switch over to YouTube Live, we'll keep on going. Any secret to cracking the tricky interviews with help of communication skills? So so interviews are always interesting, and so for me, it's a matter of being prepared for the interview. I always focus on not just what's on their resume. I ask them if they brought a copy of their resume. I ask them to tell me about their experience and things like that. And it really is more in being able to tell a story and their ability to relate the facts. I'm always amazed who says, oh man, I really enjoyed when I first started working there, but then there was this one asshole who ended up becoming my boss, and I'm like, oh my God. Well, okay, interview's over. Sorry, wish that I hadn't asked, but you never want to hire somebody who's going to badmouth their former boss, because they're going to badmouth you at some point. So, anyway, it's really more about making it. Everything's about relationships. Business relationships, personal relationships. If you can't connect, if you can't make a connection with somebody one-on-one, you're not going to get hired. So you have to make that connection. It's about being at the interview, being fully present and connecting with that person on some level. Look for stuff that's in their office. Understand what kind of comments you should make and what kind of comments you shouldn't make, and things like that. So, 20 seconds left on Instagram. Thank you guys so much. GordonMiller.com if you want to schedule anything. I'm not selling anything except my time, and look forward to seeing you guys on Friday. My wife even might show up. My wife says she may actually show up on Friday and come on cam with me. So there you go. So all right. Instagram, goodbye. So now I can focus all my time and attention on anybody here on YouTube. Thank you guys, appreciate it. Let's see. Thanks for the answer. Thank you, Omar, appreciate it. When will I release my books? So one of the books is based on my Cora answers, and I've got my answers downloaded now, and in the process of getting my team together to edit them and start putting those things together. Yeah. Go figure. There we go. All right. So the books will be out hopefully by Christmas, if all goes well. Do I chew tobacco? No. When did you buy your Georgian house, and how much is it worth now? So back to the Georgian house. We bought that in 2004 when we moved, and sold in 2005 when the real downturn in the real estate market was really starting. The bubble didn't happen in 2008 and 2009. The lead up to the bubble, the predictors that you could see coming were there. The guy that I sold the house to put like $400,000 into it, and the value of the house got up to as high as 1.6 million, and after the $400,000 they put into it. So it didn't retain its value, but so much. It dropped during the real estate crisis in 2008 and 2009. It dropped back down to $925,000. So I would have lost all that equity, $300,000 in equity. But because I sold at the right time, and I think it's back up to like 1.69 million or something like that. So it really has there's no real benefit to having a huge house like that. 6,000 square feet, about 50% larger than the house here. But there's not 50% better. There's room for a pool back here, and I can put in a pool, better than the one we had anyway. So there really isn't a whole lot of reason to own the house. It's not like the house is ever going to be worth like 2.8 million, and so I'm going to miss $1 million worth of upside. So, it is what it is. Let's see what else we got here. Do I chew tobacco? No. Do you suspect a bubble during the COVID lockdown? You mean a real estate bubble? What kind of bubble? Why hasn't the school system changed with the times? I don't know. So I think we still have this outdated notion that school is... So in terms of the bubble for COVID, I think there's going to be a huge bubble. Everything is bubblicious right now. I see huge problems on the horizon for just about every major industry right now. I have lots of friends in the restaurant business, and so it's a shame. What's happened to the restaurant industry is horrible. People that have spent multiple generations in the restaurant business and have half a dozen restaurants, and it's a horrible thing. It just is horrible, and I can't stand how bad it's getting for them. you can't do enough takeout to make the kind of money that you were making before. So even with Mother's Day brunch and stuff like that coming up. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of bubbles. In terms of, education, I think the biggest problem that I see is I don't think education's ever going to be the same. I mean, they're signing up people for next fall, and it's like, okay, well, there doesn't even appear, we may even still be going to school remotely. If there's a spike in cases in August and September leading into October, we'll be on lockdown until Christmas. So I just don't see, I don't see major universities surviving, 12 to 18 months of lockdown. So I don't see that as being realistic. And I don't think that, a lot of people have learned that they can learn online because they're being forced to, or they don't get credit for their classes. And they're finding out all the things that are wrong with learning online, which we've known about for the last 30 years that I've been working in education. So it's time to fix those things. But once they fix them, then, okay, well, we're going to fix it all. We're going to do Zoom classroom stuff for the rest of our lives, which is fine by me. I mean, I have Zoom Premium. I can do 100 people in a call. So, I don't mind. Let's do it. Let's do 100 people a call, and things like that. So I don't see why in the world, when you have a classroom of 28 to 35 people that the average teacher teaches, I don't see why we can't just pick the best teachers and help them build the best content and teach online. And we don't have to have classrooms with, obviously people can't learn from home forever if they're like 12 years old. I mean, parents can't supervise them. I mean, one of the reasons we take them to school is so that somebody else can watch the kids while mom, day drinks or, cleans the house or shops at Nordstrom's or, goes to her job. So, the whole reason for kids going to school isn't necessarily to learn. It's because, you want somebody else watching your kids so you can either earn an income or things like that. Here in the United States, I mean, the kids go to public school for free, so except for our taxes. And, our quarterly, housing taxes are, for this house is like, or twice yearly is like $2,400. So for $4,800 a year, I mean, obviously, with another income, a parent can bring in, $4,800 in a month, and you make 10 times what you'd make, trying to keep track of your kid at home. So it's a pretty decent deal. All right, we're getting some more questions here. Would you hire someone who did their schoolwork online? Yeah, probably. I mean, it depends. I mean, for me, it's most of the stuff is all about, what you're able to do. And so we have a 6-month probationary period anyway. So anybody that works for us and Virginia is an at-will state. So somebody works for us, we could fire them for wearing the wrong color socks or something like that, and it wouldn't matter. So it really doesn't matter to, from that standpoint. There's relatively little risk, in hiring somebody, and if they can't do the work, then they can't do the work. But, of course, now we give them the Peterson test, so at least we know if they have the personality to get stuff done. So how do you feel about Bill Gates receiving backlash and advocating for vaccines and other conspiracies? I don't know. It's all good. I follow Peter Schiff advices. He talks a lot about saving and investing. How much should someone save before they start investing? So, in terms of saving and investing and just financial advice in general, I follow, I used the Dave Ramsey, principles in helping to educate our kids. We used the folder method, and we gave the kids an allowance, and we taught them how to save and spend and invest and how to give. And so a lot of those things that Dave Ramsey talks about having a relatively low price house, having a low mortgage, 10 or 15 year mortgage, is all good advice. getting the right interest rate, paying cash for your cars, all those things are things I've done. I had several cars at one time. 5 of them were paid for. So, which was great. I mean, it was, the company, as a company expense, does, has leased vehicles before, which is completely allowable, and things like that. And it's just because it's the nature of, business expenses and those kind of things. So, but, it's a complete write-off. But, paying cash for cars is a great way. I mean, it's a write-off for the business, but the business still has to spend money on it. So it's not always advisable. So, all right, let me take one more question when we're coming up on dinner here. I got to grill pork chops. So climate in Virginia is pretty good. It's, 60-some degrees today. Have you ever fired someone who wore the wrong socks or the wrong dress? No, I'm not that petty, but so anyway, guys, we're an hour and 10 in. I really appreciate it. So I enjoy these sessions. We're going to continue doing them Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and from 5 until 6. I know some people had asked me to go until 6 or start at 6, so when they get off work. At least stuff is available after it uploads. So if you missed the live, you can always go back. The internships that we're offering now are going to allow sort of an army of minions to go through all the content, add the annotations and stuff like that. And so eventually these live broadcasts will have a little more access to the details and stuff like that on it. So, it's in, I've got my answers compiled now, over 10,000 answers from Cora, beginning to get those assembled and edited into the formats for stuff that we're going to be promoting for the book and things like that. And also I'll be publishing them, a number of them in other areas, both in increments on LinkedIn. If you haven't joined me on LinkedIn, join me on LinkedIn. And But 3:50 a.m. I'm sorry, man. I know. And in India, I appreciate that. I love you guys. It's unfortunate, that it's not easier to do the stuff. If the weather gets better, I might change to in the morning. But anyway, look, I appreciate it, guys. I really do. My cigar is almost done, and if you got, I've got a few more minutes because I'm going to finish a little bit more of the cigar here. But if you've got any questions, you can always put the questions in the comments down below, and when the video goes live tomorrow, or you can DM me directly the questions on my Instagram. And so for sure, join my network on LinkedIn, so you can be a part of my professional network. It doesn't cost anything. You can go to you can download the Wix app and join my site at gordonmiller.com. I did it on Wix so that people can actually join. The content will be up there. I'll be republishing some of my answers from Cora, so they'll be a little more organized. And you can follow me on Instagram, DM me questions and things like that. And special treat on Friday, my wife is going to join me at 5 o'clock going live, and she'll take questions like, what is it like to be married to me? So, yeah, okay. Well, I set myself up for that one. Everybody seems to bring their girlfriend or their wife onto their YouTube and Instagram channel. So we're going to see how it goes. And it may be the biggest mistake I ever made. But, if you guys enjoy what she has to say and things like that, then by all means, it'll be great to, great to have everybody's input. So anyway, guys, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And I appreciate it. Be happy.